All right, Alexander, the German Chancellor Scholz went to China to meet with Beijing, a 1 day visit. And it's obvious why he's going there. He's looking for a bailout, he's looking for some sort of help. One of the interesting parts about this, in my opinion, is that his government partners, his coalition partners, don't seem to be too happy with this trip. It seems like Scholz is trying to find some backbone. Trying, maybe Scholz woke up a little bit, and he realized, crap. Um, if things go bad, they're going to throw me under the bus, of which things are going very bad. And these people, Habeck and Baerbock, they're dead set on destroying Germany, and I'm going to be the one holding the bag if things go bad. If things go well, they're going to be the ones to take credit, but they're not going well. And maybe he's starting to wake up from this stupor that he was in, and maybe he's
Yeah.
trying to find a little bit of independence, but a little too late, I think. Anyway,
Oh, far too
Schultz in
late.
China. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm going to say straight away. I think Scholz has mismanaged affairs disastrously. I think that, like so many people, he assumed that all would be, that the West would press the sanctions button, the Russian economy would collapse like a house of cards. So he wouldn't actually, and Germany wouldn't actually have to pay any significant price. And now, of course, what he's discovered is that that isn't the case at all. German business and German industry is collapsing around him, and we're getting more and more information now about, factories in Germany starting to close, and Germany now heading into a very, very steep industrial recession. So the German business community, the industrialists, have basically told him, look, we've messed up with Russia totally. We've got to find some way of keeping that other, pillar of our economic relationship, our economic system together, our industrial system, which is our relationship with China. So go to China, go meet Xi Jinping, see whether you can sort out something with Xi Jinping, see whether he can provide us with some kind of bailout or some kind of economic help. And of course, what Scholz is finding is that he's now given so much meat to the ideologues within his own government, to the Greens. He's given them so much power, in effect, that, of course, they are always coming back and they're demanding more. And they're not happy about the fact that he's gone to Beijing in this way. They're not happy that he allowed the Chinese to buy a company in Hamburg. I mean, all of this is making tensions within the government, and you have people like Annalena Baerbock coming along and saying, well, we should never become dependent economically on people who don't share our values. So a very ideological perspective on economic policy, which is completely contrary to German traditions and self-interest. So Scholz is caught between his coalition partners who are basically out to wreck this relationship with China as well, because they see China as this adversary, and the needs of German business, which is going downhill fast and needs a lifeboat. And of course, he goes to Beijing, and what does he do? He finds himself up against Xi Jinping, and Xi Jinping gave him a most extraordinary lecture, and I'm just going to read from parts of the Chinese readout of the meeting. And it says things like this: President Xi stressed that political trust is easy to destroy but difficult to rebuild, and that it should be nurtured and protected by both sides. He cited a quote which former German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt, member of the SPD, by the way, Scholz's party, used, that political leaders should have the serenity to accept the things they cannot change, the courage to change the things they can change, and the wisdom to distinguish between the two. And it is important that China and Germany respect each other, accommodate each other's core interests, adhere to dialogue and consultation, and jointly resist disturbance from bloc confrontation and attempts to see everything through the prism of ideology. So what Xi Jinping is saying there, translated into, well, shall we say English, but, if he was reading, what he was telling Scholz is you've destroyed your relationship with Russia. You've demolished the trust that existed between Germany and Russia. You pursued an ideologically based, bloc-oriented economic policy towards the Russians. This has turned out to your massive disadvantage. Don't think you can do the same with us. If you try, there will be very severe consequences, and we are very much alive to the possibility that that is what you're going to do, and in effect, we don't trust you.
What is Scholz actually trying to get out of this meeting, though? I mean, it's for one day. What's his goal?
Well, this is a very good point, because what are you going to achieve in one day? I mean, if you go there, you go all across, fly across the world. Distance from Germany to China is very long. You're not going to get any real agreements. Why are you going to China? Well, I think the reason he went to China was to reassure the Chinese, look, we are still interested, we're still anxious to maintain this economic relationship with you. And what Xi Jinping has just told him is, we don't trust you.
Well, that's it, huh?
That's it. I mean, we don't trust you anymore. We saw what you did with the Russians. We see what Ursula von der Leyen is saying, about China being the new adversary. We see what Baerbock is saying, only form economic dependencies with people who share your values. So that's an ideological perspective. We see how you've abided with bloc discipline against your own interests. So therefore, we don't trust you anymore.
Does Xi call up Putin right after this meeting?
Of course he does.
Do they have a good laugh about this?
Of course they will.
And what does Scholz do?
He's
in a bind.
He is in a bind. He goes back to Berlin.
He realizes he's toast.
He's toast. I mean, I don't personally think there's anything that Scholz can do at the moment. I think that at some fundamental level, he probably knows that he's a dead man walking.
But I think this trip does indicate that he's trying in his weakness. He's trying to find a way to squirm out of this, but he just can't.
Absolutely, because he has destroyed trust. I mean, this reference to Helmut Schmidt and, trust can be built. It takes a long time to build. It's very easy to throw away. I mean, reminding Scholz what a previous German chancellor from Scholz's own party once said. I mean, it's pretty pointed when you unpack it.
Scholz can't do anything about the Greens, can he? Can't. The coalition would fall apart.
The coalition would fall apart. I mean, it's too late now. If he'd asserted himself right at the beginning and had told the Greens, look, I mean, this relationship with Russia is far too important to be jeopardized in this kind of way. We need their gas. We need their market. We can't risk a collision in Europe. If he'd said that, what Angela Merkel would have said in his situation, what Gerhard Schröder would have said in his situation, what Helmut Schmidt would have said in his situation, and Helmut Kohl would have said in his situation. Had he done that, you'd have been in a much stronger position. But now that he has accepted all their talk about values and all the rest with Russia, how can he realistically change course and say, well, it doesn't apply to China anymore, given that these people are not interested in, economic self-interest because they're ideologues.
All right. Any other final thoughts with regards to this trip?
Well, I think this is probably, the very fact that it's, a day long and, Scholz got this, as I said, lecture from Xi Jinping, I think it tells you that we are now moving in again into bloc confrontations. I mean, it's inevitable. I don't think that the relationship between Germany and China is going to endure for very much longer, and we are seeing the world again splitting into these two great blocs, and that's the reality of it. This is a last desperate ploy by a desperate man to try to avert the crisis that he has himself brought on himself.
Yeah, it shows me that Germany has nowhere else to go now, except back to the U.S. And the U.S. is going to be waiting for him, and they're going to say, come here. Absolutely. That's what the Biden White House is going to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Germany's in big trouble.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll leave it there. TheDuran.locals.com. Look for us on Rockfin and the Duran shop. 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.